Good afternoon, live from Toronto and the Gbkm network. This is the Chat Up Show, the show where we catch you up with a chat up of our weekly headlines. I'm your host, Elizabeth Eloidy, and I hope that you are ready to chat it up with me today. Now, as always, you can keep up with the Gbkm network in various ways. You can continue to listen and watch live 24/7 at www.gbkm.tv or www.gbkm.fm, where you can catch up on any past shows you may have missed, check out our upcoming show schedule, like, share, comment, check out our breaking news tab to keep up to date with what's going on around the world. You can also download our free app available for all iOS and Android devices. Just search Gbkm and you'll be able to take us on the go with you. Now, the best part about this app is you get the same features as on our web radio station. You get to listen and watch live. You get to catch up on any past shows you may have missed. Like, share, comment, check out our upcoming show schedule, stay up to date with what's going on around the world in our breaking news tab. And you will be notified every single time we go live. So just make sure you download the app, turn on your notifications so you'll be notified as soon as we go live so you won't have to miss another live show again. You can also continue to watch us on Facebook and YouTube at Gbkm Network, where you can continue to join in the conversation by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and following us on Instagram and Twitter at Gbkm Network for more updates on what's going on right here at Gbkm. Now, it is Women's History Month. I like to just call it Women's Month because it's all about the women's, okay? We are celebrating the women in all of the initiatives and innovations and just awesomeness that we women bring to this world. I think we are worth celebrating, even if it's just for a month, but we're worth celebrating every single day of our lives. Now, when we think about women, we also, in the celebration, we also must think about where we are in the world and how society views things that pertain to people with, the reproductive organs of a female. And that brings me to the topic of conversation today. It is Women's Month, which means women's health is definitely at the forefront of a lot of our minds. And within that is period. Now, when you hear the word period, what do you think of? The punctuation that ends a sentence, or the thing that happens every single month that people who menstruate don't really have much control over it, but they still have to deal with it for 5 to 7 days, if you're lucky, every single month. Then when we think about that, we think about how many people who are dealing with insecurities in that department, especially with period poverty, where there's not enough access to the proper products and hygiene products that they need to get through the few days that they're dealing with this biological process, let's call it. Or for those of us in Canada and for those who are living in certain fly-in First Nations communities, it costs almost an arm and a leg just to get the proper products. For example, on average in Ontario, it costs about $7 for a box of 36 tampons. In these First Nation communities, it's about $16 to $45 that they're going to have to pay to get something that is essentially a necessity. It's not a luxury, and they shouldn't be paying the same that they would for a luxury item for something that is a necessity. Now, in 2015, Canada officially eliminated the tax on menstrual hygiene products. However, that Canada is only one of 5 countries and a few US states that has done this. Scotland is possibly the only country in the entire world that has actually put into place putting free menstrual hygiene products in public spaces for people to use. Here, you go to a public space, you're probably going to see the 25-cent price tag on these products that you're going to use in public spaces. So a lot of people are calling for governments to follow in suit of the Scottish government to make these easily accessible products available for everyone in all public spaces. So you're not going to have to miss out on anything else in life. You're not going to have to choose whether you want to eat or pay a bill or have the proper necessary hygiene products available for you. Now, someone who has been working within her community to make a difference, to help those who are dealing with period poverty and to spread awareness of it more, is a very special guest joining me today, Regine Bumper, who is creator of I Remember. Thank you so much and welcome to the Chat Up Show, Regine. How you doing?
Thank you, Liz. I'm so excited to be here. I'm doing well. It's nice outside. It's nice and sunny. to talk about a topic that is so dark for a lot of people worldwide. So again, I am Reggie Bumper. I am the founder and creator of I Remember, and part of what I Remember does is period with a T. So every month, well, not every month, but every year, excuse me, through Women's History Month, we collect menstrual hygiene products. And so the reason being, because, well, I've personally been affected, not necessarily with period poverty, but from the effects of having very painful periods to the point where I've had to skip out on major life activities. And so period, that's just one way that period poverty impacts those who menstruate, by having to prevent them from engaging in those activities like school, and on top of not being able to afford them. So I'm excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. Now, I reached out to you because I did want to talk about the work that you're doing with Period T. Now, this isn't the first year. Last year was the inaugural year of this initiative. How did it come to be? Like, what was the inspiration behind you finally saying, okay, let's partner up with the organizations that you have partnered up with to start doing this work and actually helping your community in Virginia?
So actually, last year I knew I wanted to be of service to my fellow females in my area, but I just didn't know how. So I spent all of February 2021 trying to figure this out. And I kid you not, the last about 3 days of February, 'cause February short,
Yep.
the spirit led me and was like, you need to address the menstrual issue, period poverty. And I said, well, okay, I'm a planner, and that's 3 days to get things in order. So I was like, don't know how this is going to work out, but I just trusted spirit. And so I did some research. And another part of the mission of I Remember is to service Black and Brown women. And so I researched nonprofit, female led, Black, Brown led and owned organizations. And that's how I came across to Her Padded Truth last year. And so within 3 days, period came about, and we just hit the ground running, kind of just not expecting anything, any major results. And so this year, period 2022, I decided to expand the partnerships, because I planned it a little bit better now, but we expand the partnerships. So this year, for period 22, we are partnering with Mama Toto's Village, which is nonprofit in DC that works with mothers, because that's something else mothers really don't think about when they're just walking into that new journey.
Yeah.
So Mama Toto's Village, as well as the Flower Collective of VA, who also does great charity work in the area, and who created, so shout out to Deja Redding, who created a hotline for students in the area, primarily Title I high schools and middle schools, where these girls can simply just fill out a Google form, and they can personalize the period packages, if you will, with the items that they need. And then we assemble the packages, bring them to the school. A nurse or a social worker will then contact the student, and then they are then given their 4 to 6 month supply. So that's another place that we are partnering with. And the last business is Queenie's Kitty Palace. And so she's all things that pertain to a healthy kitty, healthy, vagina, healthy menstrual, everything woman. And so she also has her own 100% cotton pads. So when you buy one box of pads, you'll then give a box of pads. So that is where we're at with period
That's
22.
awesome.
Yes.
Now, when this initiative kind of started growing, and the 3 days that you had to plan it, did you ever see it becoming what it is today? Did you ever see it, like, with the accomplishments that you had from last year and what you were able to achieve with just the 3 days of initial planning to get it, off the ground initially? What is your reaction to the reaction it's received?
No, actually, I didn't. I wasn't really expecting it to be what it is today. And to be honest with you, I didn't necessarily realize the great extent to which the need spread. And so just in America alone, 35 states still have a tax on period products. I didn't pay attention to this tax until I kind of started paying for things more so on my own. And I'm like, well, why does this box? Because I did realize, like, why is this box of tampons nearly $7, $8, depending on the brand, you go higher. And that's because there's almost a 5 to 9, almost 10% tax in the US on tampons or menstrual products. And so having had known that, and then further on my research that like nearly 500 million people around the world are impacted by period poverty, I'm like, shucks, like what I thought in my mind was so small is really the world to somebody else. So I had no idea that last year we would raise almost 15,000 items. Yes, almost 15,000 with 3 days of planning. And so this year, I'm still walking in, not necessarily having a set expectation, because I know we'll receive what needs to be received for this year. But I had no idea, and I didn't know how many more people were not aware that this was an issue. And that goes for women and men too.
Yep. And I like that you brought up women as well, because when you're able to afford the necessary products, and you can, if you need to, if the period pain is too bad and you can take the time off to deal with it, that's almost like a luxury in this world, which kind of grinds my, like, why is that a luxury? Like, I didn't ask for this.
I know. And, when I was doing my research, it is classified as a luxury item, these menstrual products. And that's why they are essentially taxed. And so everything's, money. So if they were to take those taxes away from those menstrual products, these, countries, institutions would then have to place that tax somewhere else because it's revenue. But why the logic behind that, menstrual products, something that is biologically normal, that those females that go through is taxed as luxury. It goes into the rabbit hole of, you can go through unfair wages, like just a dichotomy between men and women in general. But that luxury tax definitely needs to be removed. Yep. And I know you said Canada, shout out to y'all for getting rid of that tax, and Scotland for really leading the way, for showing that pathway that it can be done. It is not necessary, because this is something, like you said, is completely normal. And a lot of that goes into the other thing. A lot of cultures stigmatize periods. No matter where you live, there's some stigma associated with it. And so having that tax along with that stigma just correlates a negative, viewpoint on it, which it shouldn't be at all.
And like, this is probably like an out there question, but why do you think that it's so easy to hold on to these stigmas and stereotypes of periods being dirty, or that it should be something that we don't talk about, even though on any given day, about 800 million people are menstruating, like today? About 800 million around the world, 800 million people around the world are currently going through what we're talking about right now. And yet, for us to have this conversation now, it's seen as like, whoa, like this is so out of the world, like crazy.
Well, I think a main thing that plays into it is the lack of education, lack of advocacy about it. People don't talk about it, which is another reason why I feel like I'm unapologetically out loud about it, because it is what it is. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's been here for centuries, and so people just don't talk about it. You can even think about it on a personal level, like within families. When people don't talk about things, it just it musters and keeps building and building and building. And so if people talked about it, more often in schools, community, churches, even organizations, about just the facts about what a menstrual cycle is, what a period is, then I think that can really help to, remove sort of kind of, that goes into the tax too, because a lot of these, institutions, the legislation, the governments, they have the power to remove them, and if they're not, educated on what exactly a period is, then it's just going to continue to be what it is. And I also think as well that what goes into it is the lack of research. And so in my own research, there aren't a lot of peer-reviewed articles. There are, organizations that put out their publications, but on a grand scheme of things, on the wider spectrum in research itself, there isn't a lot of talk about, periods and how that affects the body, what it even is. And so I think those two things in particular are primary drivers as to why it's still very much stigmatized.
And even just thinking of that, just talking about periods, like we have so many code words for it. We can't even just say like I'm menstruating or I have my period. Oh, Aunt Flo is who is Aunt Flo? Like say what it is. Like it's a biological thing, it's happening, it's natural. We don't need to cover it up as much as we've been doing, which then leads to so many people feeling ashamed, or if there is something, for example, folks who deal with endometriosis, you can't talk to someone about you having a period and then talking about the pain, because either they'll be like, okay, well, everyone goes through that, so what are you complaining about? Or they're just like, that doesn't sound real, or I don't get it, it doesn't make sense to me. And then you have so many people go years dealing with this for so long, when it could have just been hey, I'm dealing with this. Oh, I knew someone that was going through the same thing. Here's a referral to a doctor that helped, or here's a referral to some, naturopathic healing remedies that helped me deal with it, type of thing. Like the sense of community gets kind of lost when we talk about periods for some reason, that it's, oh no, keep that to yourself, we don't want to talk about it. But it could help so many people who maybe they're having an abnormal period and they don't even know it, and it could help, detect something later on that could save a life or could potentially prevent something. And it gets frustrating when we're sitting here as women. It's like we want to talk about it because it's like we could help someone else, but then you hear people in Congress who are like, I don't even know what a period is, or I didn't even know that it happens every month. Like, how are you the decision maker and you don't even understand the basic science behind it that they teach in like 5th grade?
Look, Liz, don't get me started on that part. I'd be like, yeah, how many years of school did you take to get to your position? You should at least know this basic biology, but I digress. But to your point, that is why community is so important, and why the community is also a major base foundation. And I remember, because the more that you're surrounded with people who are like-minded, or really iron sharpens iron, you know what I mean? So I can become better because, you're better, Liz, and then I can then help somebody else. And so the same goes with menstruation, all these different code words, we're just gonna call it what it is. It's a period, a menstrual cycle. But I think back also to, it's ironic that we call this a cycle, because it's also synonymous with the cycle around how periods have been discussed. And every family, is different. There's a lot of different cultures that view it differently. But if you just think back to maybe how your mom, grandma, or whatever female figure in your life growing up around the time that you may have started menstruating, how that was introduced to you, or if it ever was, you know what I mean? And so now going forward as an adult, I try to think about, well, what did I need when, I started pre-cramping for like a week straight and didn't know what in the world was going on. I felt like I was about to die, and that may not have been because my mom didn't know what was going on. She's trying her best to give me Tylenol to help me get out of pain, but she don't really know what's going on, or she may not have even dealt with that herself. Right. And so my mom, my grandma, the cycle just keeps going on. And so if you look back to your cycle, your chain of, women before you and how that was thought of, you can then kind of come to grasp a little bit about how or why your viewpoint on periods is the way it is. And so knowing that about myself, I'm glad you brought up community, because it is so important. That's why I really love the hotline that we're also going to, because I remember being in school and the first time my period came, I had a pad, and I couldn't figure out the tampon method. I just couldn't figure it out. But I remember after that day, I was like, I got to figure it out, because this way is not the path for me right now. It just wasn't working. But I would have felt way more comfortable if I had someone else, I should say, because I did have someone, but more females that I could talk to, because like I said, everybody's experience is different, and just, share like, how do I do this? Like, what in the world? There's got to be something else more than just Midol, because it's not working. It's like I'm eating candy. Like I need some help. So that's another major reason why I'm very passionate about period, because it's going to the community, talking about something that the community don't really want to talk about, but it's evident, like it's like in your face. It's like the pink elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
or the red elephant.
Right, or you're the red elephant in the room. Excuse me. Like it's there. You know what I mean? Like, how long are you not going to address it? So if we can continue to talk about it, continue the research, the advocacy about it within our own communities, a little equals a lot. So you don't have to necessarily change or, impact the entire, world, EU or United Nations legislation around it. But if you could just do with what you got, where you're at right now, that'll build up to something larger in the end.
And we actually have some of the stats from the research you've actually been sharing around this. So first, speaking of community, you're asking basically for donations of products here on the flyer for the whole Women's Month time period. But it's not just for people who are looking to donate. It's not just if you live in Virginia. You can donate, sorry. A lot of words. In Virginia, you can donate in other ways as well, by purchasing off the wish list that you have available. I think it's on the next flyer that we have available.
Yes. So there is a couple of ways, because no matter where you live, you can definitely make an impact and be a part. So like you said, Liz, the first way, probably the easiest way, is purchasing products off of the Amazon wish list. And everybody, love Amazon. Yes. So use that Prime.
They love that, Mr. Bezos.
Right? Okay. So just picking off items, whichever ones speak to you the most, off the Amazon wish list. 2 is you can make a monetary donation. So you can be hands off. Like, some people may I don't even want to go to the store, and pick it up. That is fine. Just send a monetary donation. I'll personally go get it. And particularly like the items I know that we're most, need of, shortage of. That's the second way. The third way is you can buy 1 box of goddess pads from Queenie's Kitty Palace. And that is also online. And when you buy one, you'll donate 1 box. So you can actually benefit yourself in buying a box of 100% cotton pads. And when you do so, you'll also be giving a box to a sister in need as well. But then also, if you are local, you can also drop off physical items that you may already have and you don't like no more, or you've gone to the store and personally picked up if you're in the DMV area.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. That's the way to join the Period 2022 community, by sharing. Now, I want to go on to some other statistics that you've also shared as well, regarding students and how many the percentage of students that felt that they had to miss out on life activities because of their period, or the percentage of students who just missed out on days of school or anything. And when you're doing your research, what was the most shocking piece of information that you found?
Because they were all kind of shocking at first, but I would have to say the one that comes to mind the most is that 1 in 10 young women can't afford to buy their period products. And if we think about it more recently, like when the pandemic started, that about it's like 23% say that they've had to choose between buying menstrual products over food or clothing. Like, they've really been in a pickle of buying. 16% have been really in a pickle and buying, had to make that decision, like, just basic needs again here, and I didn't realize that one probably this year spoke the loudest to me. And then the 1 in 10 last year really resonated with me, because again, this is 2021 or 2022, if you will, and that people here, even in the US, because these are US based off the US student statistics, are still struggling to afford these things. And then if you think about on the global scale, I did know that, for women who don't have access, socks is another substitute, napkins, paper towels, but on a global scale, other
Socks? I'm
things
so
that are,
sorry.
oh,
Socks?
yes, because it's the cloth, it
Oh, I get
soaks
it.
it up. Yeah, yeah. They use socks, but also on a global scale, they use mud or chicken feathers. So they're soft, and again, it's a type of, it's not a fabric, but it's soft and absorbent. Grocery bags or even old rags and pieces of blankets. So when you think about it, if you haven't yourself experienced period poverty or even been in a 911 situation and you had no supplies on you and you had to go to the bathroom and just utilize all those paper towels,
Yup.
it really puts it in perspective, of how blessed and in a position that you are to be able to help somebody else. So yeah, those are just a little bit of the shocking ones. There's a whole lot more that we could dive into, but those are
I'm like,
the
yes, please let's dive into it because I'm so fascinated. I think we don't think about these things. I mean, maybe to the extent of like being in a bind and like, the tissue, but you're like thinking, okay, this will just get me home where I have like an endless supply of what I need. But then there are others who it's like, that's what they have to do month in, month out. Like that's their only other alternative if, you want to eat or, I'm sorry, just deal with your period and just deal with it. And it's,
exactly.
you don't think about that because like the fact that this is a privilege even just feels a little insane almost. Like that shouldn't be the way it is. And then we're not even thinking about, women who are incarcerated,
Yes.
what they have
Yeah,
to deal with and what they go through. Because
exactly.
they're also going to get their periods. And what happens
Hmm.
if they don't have enough or supplies in commissary or if they can't even afford to get the products and supplies?
Exactly. Like that innovation that it requires is just ridiculous. And I'll give you something else to kind of like make your mind blown. So just imagine if you are one of those women in those situations, right? You bleed on average in a woman's lifetime, a span of about 7 years. So I know it's broken up each month, but just imagine if you were bleeding for 7 years straight and you have to use these items outside of the products that were designed for it. That's roughly like 2,535 days, like you straight bleeding, right? So even though it's broken up into, 7 days usually max out of the week of each month, that's still too much,
That's a whole
like
week out of four of them. Like, and it
that's
comes so
still too
fast.
much to have to figure out how you are going to address the situation that your body naturally is going through. So yeah, I when I saw that, I was like, wow. I had to check myself because I've complained before about the quality of products. And that is a whole nother separate
Yeah.
conversation as well, because there are better products, that a lot of these products have been made and manufactured with or not organisms, excuse me, chemicals that are harmful to the body and also specifically to the female reproductive, system and things like that. But I had to check myself because I'm like, I'm over here complaining because I have to use this off brand, that I'm like, I don't even know anything about. But there really could be a system installed next to me that doesn't have anything. Or y'all remember when in the bathrooms they used to make you pay
Yeah.
for
The
yeah,
25 cents.
yes, it's like who
Those are
carries change,
the
right?
worst
So I'm
ones.
like that they used to have those, but it's like nobody really is carrying change.
Yeah.
But it really kind of humbles you a whole lot because that you're not in a position like this, that you're not one of those 35% of teenagers who are or currently couldn't afford to get, those products. Like it was just a lot.
Because, like, I'm thinking, like, I'm a grown woman, it's been some time. I've dealt with it. But as a teenager, like, it's new still. And then you're also dealing with the fact that you probably have to, be inventor McGee to try and figure out different ways that you can get through it, because you can't afford to get the proper products. And then, or you can get the proper products, but you don't have enough, so you have to like make it stretch. And then that
Yes,
itself is like unhygienic because
severely. Yes, and there's about, I believe it is, the statistic is slipping me, but there's a lot of women, teenagers, students that use their menstrual products longer than what they are supposed to. And again, that is very unhygienic, very unsafe, especially for the long term.
yep.
It's 51%. I'm sorry, there's 51%. That's half, over half of teenage students. They make it stretch. You know what I mean? Because they just don't have it. And that's another reason why I really appreciate Deja from the Flower Collective for creating this hotline, because these students, when they're not in school, what do? The need doesn't go away. And so by us being able, with donations from Period, is able to provide these students with that supply when they're out of school on the summertime, that they
Oh
have that and
yeah.
they're covered. It's right. You didn't think
I didn't even
I
think about summer or like
yes.
breaks or oh wow.
See, I didn't either at first, until Deja really brought it to my attention. I'm like, oh snap. Like, yes, they're still going to need it. So what are they doing from June to, the beginning of September roughly? And so that's why I appreciate her so much for her genius and thinking of that hotline, because like I said, 51 of students, they can't afford it. You know?
51.
Yeah.
And that's just like US statistics.
Yes, that is US alone. That's US alone. But if we switch to a global scale about this tampon tax, it could be anywhere from about 14 to about 30%, depending on the country in which you reside in. Um, and like you said, Ireland is the only one. Well, not the only one, but it was the originator.
Scotland, yeah.
I'm sorry,
No worries.
Scotland, was the originator to lead the path, but a lot of countries, from first to, let's say, developing to developed countries, they still have them. And 10 EU state or country, sorry, I said state, country members, they have eliminated the tax, and or are on their way to eliminating it. So there is progression being made. I will say that. So we can give a, woo,
Yeah,
woo,
shout out.
woo, woo for that, right? A shout
About
out.
time.
Right. It only took, I don't know how long, but there is progress being made, but there is still significant progress to be made across the entire board.
Yeah. And like as you said, from first world countries to developing, like this period poverty is a global issue. Like an estimated 500 million people worldwide dealing with that.
And it also correlates to sanitation as well. I have
Yeah.
to add that into it too, because a lot of women don't have access to clean water.
Yeah.
And I just want to put in perspective for those women who use menstrual cups, and menstrual cups are arguably the most sustainable,
Yeah.
because you can use it up to 12, and obviously depends on the person and flow, but you can wear it up to 12 hours, but it's not useful, if you will, if you don't have clean water to clean it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
Especially if you gotta
sanitation,
boil it.
exactly, so improving the sanitation access and availability worldwide as well coincides with rectifying this issue of period poverty as well. Just had to throw that in there too.
I think this chat just checked my privilege like on 1,000. Because even though every month I'm like, this sucks. Why do I have to go through this? I didn't ask for this. Like, at least I'm comfortable. If I need anything, I can go to a doctor. Thank God for healthcare here that's paid through our taxes.
Okay.
Okay.
Shout out to y'all.
It's not going to cost an arm and a leg to get the care that I would need, if anything, you know? But it just makes you really put into perspective, like, what goes into dealing with your period every single month and how many people don't have access to that. The clean water, I forgot all about that. I wasn't even thinking about that, even though, like, that's such a basic necessity.
And even safe bathrooms too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women, you know, developing countries, they don't necessarily have the toilets out, you know, you may have it at your place or work establishment. So they have to they have to travel to go to the bathroom. And if you don't have safe bathrooms to handle your business or, you know, the environment, that's another encumbrance too that you have to consider and overcome. How do you make and create, you know, safe bathrooms for these women to be able to handle their business? So it is definitely a privilege check. Definitely.
On that note, we're going to leave you checking your privilege while we take a quick commercial break. But when we're back, we're going to continue the discussion around period poverty and whether it's time to cut the tax completely globally.
Canada's #1 African barbecue, the Suya Spot. Serving and satisfying your suya needs from multiple locations across the GTA, including Scarborough, downtown Toronto, North York, Woodbridge, and Mississauga. Also located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Visit any location today or stay home and order through
DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Skipped Dishes.
For more information, check out our website at www.thesuyaspot.com or call the toll-free line at +1 866 448 7892. The Suya Spot. You built it, now use it. Vous l'avez construit, utilisez-le. Canada's #1 African barbecue, the Suya Spot.
Hello and welcome back to the Chat Up Show. I'm your host, Elizabeth Eloidy, and I'm joined today by a very special guest, Regine Bumper, who's creator of I Remember, and also innovator, essentially, of the Period with a T initiative that is helping bring awareness to period poverty and providing donations and products for those who are in need of them. Now, I want to talk about what you were able to accomplish with last year's first initiative. I have the infographic here for us to show the real numbers, because I think I'm a visual person. I'm sure a lot of other people are too. They like to see the numbers. So you were able to collect about 14,737 items. First of all, how does it feel to see this big red number, to see that this was essentially a brainchild that you brought together quickly, and this was the impact and outcome of it all?
It's definitely, the first word that comes to mind is humbling, because like I mentioned before, Spirit led me, and I know that I couldn't have been able to achieve this. It's not even an I thing. I just happened to be the carrier of it, if you will, but that we were able to achieve such an impact because before planning this, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But, you know, like I said, Spirit led me in this direction to really be of service. And so to see almost 15K, okay, 15K, and then nearly 600 or over 600 was raised monetarily, so that you can imagine how that shopping trip went. It's really astonishing. And so something else that we plan to add to this graphic this year is items that pertain specifically to mothers. So maternity pads, as well as maternity underwear, because again, that coincides with one of our partnering organizations, Mama Toto Village, because mothers, I'm not a mother myself, but from community and just, you know, hearing stories from my own friends, that's something that's on the last thing that you think about. But again, it's still something that is going to come. And so on top of having to worry about taking care of this little human that, you know, beautiful you've created, you also have to worry about yourself, which I know can be very hard to do as a woman, but then it's a whole nother level as a mom. So we hope to obviously, you know, achieve this impact of the similar magnitude, and also add those maternity products that are specific to moms.
And for you, when you first started, what was the reaction from your immediate community when you started this initiative?
You know, they were very responsive. I think it took a little bit of time to build up steam outside of my immediate one, just to really, because I think that's always like a hurdle when you introduce something for the first time. You have to get people, you know, to understand and think about outside of themselves. Like, well, how does this even impact me? And that's something like with men. I know a lot of men, when I post, they'd be like, okay, this doesn't pertain to me, but like, if you really think about it, you know, brothers, like if your mom's not okay, if your sister's not 100%, how is that going to affect you? Like, she's probably not the nicest person, one, but alongside of that, you know, everything is a cycle. We pour into the masculine, and the masculine pours into us. And so we are only as good as the people around us. So men, you have to be able to see how this impacts them, and, you know, pour back into the female as well. So that was kind of a challenge, I think. So like the first 2 weeks into March. And then after that, I really think people's like, oh, okay. And that's when the donation really skyrocketed. You know, I had an old athletic trainer teacher donated like boxes of tampons. Like, I didn't even know this. I didn't even know they could come in this magnitude, like that. We, you know, people could get access to boxes of tampons. And another friend from high school, she donated like a trunk load. Her and her mom just like bawled out at Costco. Wow. You know what I mean? And I had people from Arizona who I never physically had met, or even some hadn't even spoken to, that poured into this because they were able to see the value of it. So initially it was a little slow, you know, but as the education, you know, continued to come out, that's when the community, I think it clicked more so with everybody.
Yeah. You know what? It's always interesting, like when you brought up like the men were thinking, oh, this doesn't have anything to do with me. But, you know, you came from a woman, so you definitely have at least one woman in your life who's dealt with this. And I feel like that's enough of a degree of separation to care enough about these issues. Like, that's literally like 1 degree. So, but yeah, like, wouldn't it be interesting to see more men become more advocates for this? And, you know, all the girl dads out there who can come up and champion and, you know, say, hey, we understand and we're here to support and advocate. But either way, it's amazing seeing it. I remember when I first saw it last year and I was like, this is so smart. Like, you really don't think about it. And I want to keep reiterating that we need to remember that we need to check our own privileges sometimes, that even though life isn't easy for everyone, we all have our own hardships that we go through. Someone somewhere is dealing with something that you don't have to. So that in itself is like a privilege for you that you can, hold on to. Make yourself feel a little better if you want to, but then keep in check, like, okay, I understand that at least I don't have that, and I'm grateful and blessed to not have to deal with that and not have to worry about that I have these needs met, that I can, if I need to, I can go and afford to pay for something and pay for someone else as well to do it. That is like awesome. And I think that if we start centering our giving to our communities from that perspective of, I'm so privileged and so blessed that I can share that with other people. Hopefully we'll see more people doing what you're doing and sharing and working within the communities and larger to create a bigger impact in this world.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into like my why, if you will, for another reason for my why, because we are a reflection of the people around us, and the people around us are hurting, and we're the only ones that's saying a whole lot. So, you know, by participating in Period, you know, you are investing in another female's entire well-being. That's mind, body, and spirit, because this is all connected. Let's just think about it. If you're physically, which, you know, physical is the period, you're in pain, you're trying to think about how you're going to, you know, address these needs. Think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs to make it educational, right? At the very bottom, which is where your period would be, something very biological and basic. If you can't get that taken care of, you're struggling to get that taken care of, then what does that do to the mind? The mind goes in disarray all over the place. You start these thoughts like, oh my gosh, I'm worrying. And what does that do to the mental health? And what does mental health do to the body? We already pretty much know that correlation, right? If you're physically, you know, negative or not in the highest state that you can be, your mind is not in the highest state that it can and should be. And then what does that do to the spirit, the aura that you put out? You can't walk around as your highest and best self to do the things that you're supposed to do. To give an example, right? Let's just make it really simple. If a young lady is a soccer player, right? She's experienced period poverty. And like I said, all the physical and the mental things, she's probably going to walk around, if you think of like Inside Out, like with a cloud, you know, and like people may not, right, may not really want to be around her, or she may just come off a certain way that's not really true reflection of who she really is. But that's no fault of her own, because she physically at the base could not get what she needed to get taken care of for something biologically. So it's all, everything is a circle, everything's a cycle, and everything is interconnected. So and that's a driving force for another driving force for why I do period.
And like, even just thinking about the whole cycle of it, like I feel like my whole being is based off of this menstruation cycle, like my, I guess, hormonal cycle, if you will. So there's the week that you have your period, and then there's like the week after that you're basically ovulating. And then after that, I call it the pre-period preparation, which is when I start feeling the symptoms and I start thinking, oh, here we go again. It's getting closer. You know, I start bloating, the hormonal pimples start coming up. So already I'm thinking about it. Now imagine if you're dealing with period poverty. It's like basically 3 weeks out of the month that you're stressed about, oh my goodness, my period.
Exactly. And you just put it in such great perspective, because I didn't even look at it. I didn't even look at the breakdown like that, because everything you said I experienced too. Okay. Yep. So exactly. And that's another reason why, like, the hotline, right? That's 3 weeks. There's 4 weeks typically out of each month. And you telling me that 1 week out of each month I'm okay, you know, I'm happy, if so you will. Sad. Like that is unacceptable. Yeah. No one should have to go around life living that way. So
yeah, I mean, it's talking to you now that I really just thought about it. When you kept saying cycle, I was like, yeah, it is a cycle, and it's a continuing cycle unless you get pregnant, you know, or I guess you have your, like, a hysterectomy, you have everything removed then, but, or menopause. So just, I guess, wait until your mid-50s, early 60s for that to happen, for you not to have to worry about this. But it's a cycle that keeps happening. And it's this 28-day, sometimes 30-day cycle that you're constantly thinking about. It's in the back of your mind that your body is constantly sending you the signals for. So even if you want to like compartmentalize and not think about it until you're physically faced with it, your body's like, nah, sis, something's happening. So get ready for it. And as teenagers, I remember when I would go through the mood swings and I couldn't control them. And then just knowing that my period was coming would make me angry and like agitated, and I'd be like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to think about it. And I'm already a teenager, so the hormones are all over the place anyway. We're like going through puberty and all of that. I'm putting myself in the position of students who are going through this, and I'm like, how do you focus in school?
Exactly. And it's like I said, it's a global topic, but specifically the period poverty and the correlation to education on a global scale is where it kind of hits home a little bit more instead of country specific. But that's another thing that why period poverty is such a critical issue to figure out, because this period is pulling girls out of school. And if women aren't educated, it's everything is attached. If women aren't educated, how are they going to get, jobs, well enough jobs to pay for these products that are taxed at 20% above, essential items that are, and, if they can't pay for these things, they don't have a job, then that then travels on to the next generation. And then you're again starting a new cycle of the same thing that has been perpetuated for years before you. So the periods have a huge impact on education. And so we spoke a little bit previously about the mental side of it. And that's another futuristic area that I want to get into, and partnering with more professionals who are in the mental health field to really share the education about how periods mentally, psychologically affect the female. And then you can then branch out to how that is that then affects the people around her. But the education portion lives. Like girls are missing like weeks from school because of this. Like think about it. Like what we already know is a week out of every month. And if you go to school 5 days a week and you're missing 3 or 4, like that's critical education that you're missing. And so that's another future plan for Period to continue growing into as far as the educational piece and the mental health piece too, because it needs to be addressed.
And I actually want to get into what the future of Period, like what you envision for this to become in, let's say 5, I don't want to put a time on it, in the future in general. It's open-ended.
Yes. So again, shout out to Deja for this hotline, because I think that it's such gold, and I would like to essentially create hotlines, if you will, in other communities. So my family is from Burlington, North Carolina, and so I would like to extend the Period to Burlington and other cities eventually, obviously, but other cities in America. And that's kind of shorter term, and obviously to make it global, but to establish these sustainable solutions hotlines again, so that even if I'm not there, or if it can be anybody who is in place of me in that specific area can replicate it. Because that's another issue of when you're doing work to give back. A lot of solutions are not sustainable. The people there cannot keep up with it on their own once the primary originator is removed from it. So continue to establish these sort of hotlines in other cities that need them most. And then that from there, they can then involve their communities bordering, cities and stuff to pour into it. And so that menstrual poverty is addressed. But that's one way. And the other way, which we talked about, was the sanitation. That's another long term, is to improve that as well. So definitely water quality, bathrooms, even supplies in the bathroom as well, so that we can kind of double team Period poverty coincidentally, at the same simultaneously. So that's the plans to continue to expand sustainable, solutions for period poverty.
And are you then willing to expand to Canada if you potentially find partnerships up here?
Liz, I mean, if you're saying what I think you're saying, yes.
I mean, I'm not saying what I think you're saying. What you think?
Like,
I'm saying?
I just need a person on the ground to lead the
Okay.
charge, like to be physical. Because I don't live in Toronto, but yes, I would love to expand it to Toronto. Like I said, all you need is one. Like a lot of people may think when they hear about stuff that, oh, I need this, I need that, I need a team. You really don't. All you need is one person, that being yourself, the vision. If you can see the vision, it's obtainable, because otherwise it wouldn't have been given to you. Have the vision, and then just have the drive, the passion to continue to work until that vision is carried out. Everything else will fall into place. You'll get the people will come, the partnerships will come, the locations will come, everything else will come. You just really need yourself and the passion to see it through.
I love that. That's so inspiring, honestly. Like, I feel this whole conversation is really inspiring me to think about just what it is that I'm taking for granted, that I'm not thinking about for someone else, that I'm capable of helping with. Because, it's easy to think like, oh, I want to save the world, but I know I'm not going to end poverty. But I can be realistic with the ways that I can, take the steps towards that. And if it's helping to end period poverty, that's still under the poverty umbrella. And that's still something that I'm connected to, that I can easily, do something to help another person who's in need. Because if it means buying an extra box of tampons at Costco, sure, we can all do that, well, for the most part, hopefully. And it's just taking those little steps, even with just one person. I mean, you're one person, and look what you've managed to do.
Exactly. Like I think about it, like this, just a little take home, but each of us has a superpower or one thing or something, at least one thing that makes us unique. And so think about what that thing is or things, if you know, and think about how you can use your light to bring light in places of darkness, such as this challenging issue of period poverty. Just find your place and walk in it boldly and be proud of it. You know what I mean? Like you said, if your place is to buy a box and give a box, then do that. If your role is, somebody at a water, plant, and you got connections who got connections, then go in there and make your light shine to be of impact. You know what I mean? If you're somebody that necessarily monetarily is not really your ministry right now, but you have a really good ear and you're around several young women, then be that ear for them, because that is equally as important and needed as well. So whatever your superpower is or superpowers, then use that and walk in it and boldly.
I love it. Yeah, honestly, like round of applause, standing ovation. Yes. And that really does play into the philosophy of I Remember. Like hearing you speak about this, I'm like, this is just who you are. This is your brand, everything. And like, what exactly was it about this initiative that really just fit in with you for I Remember, and you thought, like, I can't pass up on doing something like this, especially with the work that you're already doing?
Yes, so the mission of I Remember is to enrich the mind, body, and spirit of the female so that she can walk in her full purpose. And so you might be already to guess that the period part resonates with the body part of the female. And so I came to realization that in order for me to really reach here, the mind part of women, I have to address and get down to the core of the body and those things, those obstacles, those hurdles that may be impeding that portion before you can get to the mind. So once I had that realization, that I knew that period was something that I could not do.
And you did it, period.
Period. Yes.
Period. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been such an informative conversation, and I hope that everyone watching right now has learned so much. Again, this is Period T22, going on until April 3rd, and you can give donations in the different ways with the wish list or the monetary donations, or buying a pad, giving a pad, or if you are in the area, the DMV area, you can physically drop off location sites in Alexandria and Woodbridge, Virginia. And before I let you go, just anything there that you want to round up for us, Regine?
Yes, so if anyone is interested or has any questions, I can be contacted on Instagram at EYERMBR, as well as on my website, that's EYERMBR.com, I Remember. And like I said, any questions or any potential partnerships, my DMs are open. Email as well is the same, EYERMBR@gmail.com. So I appreciate all of y'all, whether you've already donated or thinking about it or going to in the future. I already appreciate you and the light that you give and the love that you're about to instill in these women that need you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And that concludes the Chat Up Show for today. Remember to continue to watch us live 24/7 at www.gbkm.tv or www.gbkm.fm. Also, make sure to download our free app available for all iOS and Android devices. Just search GBKM. You'll be able to take us on the go with you. You'll be notified every time we go live. You can do the same things as on our web station on our app as well. Also, continue to watch us on Facebook and YouTube at GBKM Network, where you can like, share, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at GBKM Network for more updates on what's going on right here and to catch up on any breaking news as it happens. And you can follow me, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at TIS_Liz_O for more updates on what's going on at the Chat Up Show. And with that, I will see you the same time, same place next week. Happy Women's History Month. Take care.
Canada's #1 African barbecue, the Suya Spot. Serving and satisfying your Suya needs from multiple locations across the GTA, including Scarborough, downtown Toronto, North York, Woodbridge, and Mississauga. Also located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Visit any location today or stay home and order through
DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Skip the Dishes.
For more information, check out our website at
Now that regular TV watching is becoming irregular, don't get bored. Switch to a platform that gives you undiluted, real, and fresh news on the go. Plus, creative entertainment, informative talk shows, best African movies, celebrity gossip, heartwarming comedies, and lots more. This is Gbkm Network. Welcome to the world of limitless entertainment. Follow us on our social media platforms. Download our app on Google Play and App Store to enjoy notifications on your mobile device anywhere you are. Gbkm Network, the mouthpiece.